What are we meant to do with those parts of the Bible that we find repugnant? I want to talk about that tonight. I'm Warren, the rector here at St. Columba's. Glad you could join me for my message of the day. Last week I spoke about those parts of the Bible that we might find a little bit opaque. We don't really understand them. We might even disagree with them. And I suggested that one of the things about using Scripture is to read those parts that extend us. We may discover in them is actually something we need to learn. But what about those parts of the Bible that we find repugnant and always will find repugnant? And there's plenty of it in the Bible, as people like to point out. What are we meant to do with that? Well, let's start with asking the question, what's the alternative to a Bible that has real human history in it? I suppose it would be a history that's not really believable, that's not really human, that's just perfect or something. Think about that. What's the alternative? You might say, oh, well, actually, it need not be quite as bad as it is. Again, we're just making it less real. I suppose we could have a story of people who have come to the end of the process. They've been made holy or perfect or something. And then when we came to read that, we might be tempted to think that that's what we are meant to be and try to get there ourselves or something. That wouldn't be the Bible. And that's not what the Bible's meant to do for us. I suppose another alternative might be to have some sort of bloodless sort of list of little aphorisms, little wise sayings or something. And there's plenty of those in the Bible, but just to reduce the Bible down to those bits like that are sort of eternal. And that's the temptation for everybody who sort of starts to think this way, is let's reduce the Bible down to the bits that I like. The bits that I find repugnant, let's leave out. But of course, it's not just the repugnant bits. We start to cut it down to the bits that I like now. And we just end up with a Bible that confirms what we already think. In contrast to all of this, the Bible is a story about God's dealings with real people, culminating in Jesus, and shows us how God can work even with the less, even the parts of history that are in our lives that aren't that great, that can be repugnant. God can still work somehow in here, in that story, to bring about our salvation. You think about the story of Jesus. It's a story of him being crucified. He was sinned against, and yet God brings our salvation. That's essentially what undergirds the whole of the Bible, that God works with and in human history, with real human beings, people like you and I. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.